In today's Tech Check, IBM is one of the tech giants making advances in artificial intelligence. Seth Dorbin, IBM's Chief IA Officer, is with us now to show us what IBM is up to. Thanks so much for being here. And I want to start with the banks.
Yeah, so if you look at what the banks are doing with AI, in fact, they've been leaders in this space for quite a while primarily because of regulation and looking at fraud detection. They've moved significantly, or many of the, especially tier 1 and tier 2 banks have moved, from using rules-based fraud detection to using AI to detect fraud. So for example, if they were to use rules to do this, if I were, traveling and didn't let them know, it may trigger a fraud detection. So if I'm trying to get fuel for my car because I'm driving, it may trigger fraud. Whereas using AI, I may give them access to my location via the app, and they would know that I'm traveling and they would not necessarily trigger it as fraud. Another place is in anti-money laundering, which is a heavily regulated area.
What about retailers and healthcare?
Yeah, healthcare specifically, especially if you look back over the course of the pandemic, IBM Watson products have had over 40,000 customer engagements in the last few years. This really came even more accelerated during the pandemic when major brands like CVS, Kroger, who were dealing with huge spikes in call volume and inquiries related to vaccine availability and appointments across all 50 states, many of which had different requirements state by state, and even within states there were different requirements and timing. So the way that CVS leveraged AI really helped us over the course of the last 9, 10, 12 months since the vaccines have been available.
What are some of the biggest changes or trends in AI?
When we look at coming up trends over the course of the next year, one of the biggest areas will be personalization. So when you go and interact with retailers, you'll have a more personalized experience that understands your likes and dislikes better. Retailers are really focused on how to provide more harmonized physical and digital experiences. And we need to also, as we're looking across all of these industries we talked about, we need to also make sure that we do this, in a trustworthy manner. So how can we help AI become more trustworthy? Meaning it needs to be explainable, and we need to use it to help us control and minimize specific biases.
Should we fear what's ahead with artificial intelligence?
One of the ways that we're starting to use AI is to enable us to deliver more trusted, more reliable, more fair AI. And so there are now tools that are available when we're implementing and operationalizing these technologies that enable us to make AI more transparent. So making it more open to inspection, helping us to ensure that it is free of specific biases. We'll never get rid of all biases, but we need to focus on specific biases that are not socially acceptable in the societies we live in or within the corporate policies. And then making sure it's explainable, especially when, these decisions that are being driven affect our health, wealth, or our well-being. We need to make sure that we're minimizing specific biases and that the AI is explainable.
Well, thank you for all of this great information.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and I hope you have a great new year.
Go to businessfirstam.com for where to see our show on TV.